Annual sales in the international market stood at 115 billion in 2017. From the earnings of 2018, flowers were able to bring in 113 billion, representing 74%. Fruits brought in 12 billion, accounting for 8%, while vegetables brought in 27 billion, that account for 18% of the total sales. And our key destinations continue to be Holland, United Kingdom, France, United Arab Emirates, and Germany, among others. As you are aware, in July last year, we launched the National Export Development and Promotion Strategy. And a number of things are promised in that strategy. And I would like, this is the Horticulture Export Strategy that basically focuses on agriculture. And I would like to talk briefly about the aspects of it that touch on horticulture. There are 6 strategic objectives that, together with government, we hope to achieve. One of it is to provide business, legal, and regulatory framework for promotion of development of horticultural exports. And key among that is the harmonization of county government fees and levies to make them a one-off levy to implement a single collection and mutual recognition framework. Our assessment as industry is that that has not happened to date. Double taxation continues to impact businesses negatively. Our recommendation as industry is that the national government needs to initiate discussions with the Council of Governors so that we can have a sharing modality. The second strategic objective is to strengthen and promote linkage of horticultural value and supply chains in support of horticultural export development. Key among that is the support and integration of a nationwide information system for horticultural producers and exporters to enhance our visibility in the marketplace. And our assessment as industry is that Kenya lacks reliable data on industry statistics, especially on production, to be able to enhance our visibility. And so we wish to make a recommendation to government that there is need to support an up-to-date database for growers and all the produce grown in Kenya, so that over the years then we can be able to use that data. The third strategic objective is to promote production of horticultural products, which is basically flowers, fruits, vegetables, herbs, and spices for export. And key among that objective is to provide on a cost recovery basis and using horticultural export development revolving fund, extension services and other services to ensure high productivity of the specific products that we produce. And secondly, to provide demand-led support through the Horticultural Export Development Revolving Fund towards the development of horticulture park houses at county, community levels to ensure that we have cold rooms and other attendant infrastructure to support the grading of fresh produce destined for export market. Our assessment as industry is that the revolving fund has not been set up, and many SMEs who would like to enter into export business do not have access to affordable park houses. Our recommendation as industry is that there is need for government to collaborate with the financial institutions to set up instruments to enable growers and exporters access affordable credit. Strategic objective number 4 is to promote value addition on vegetables, herbs, spices, fruits, and nuts. And key among that is to identify and accredit training institutions and research institutes to undertake research that offers skills training on vegetables, fruits, and nuts value-added products. And secondly, to encourage and support investments in common use of facilities and equipment for production of value-added vegetables, fruits, nuts for export through the Export Development Fund. Our assessment is that the research on value addition isn't available at the moment to the end users, and that the support to have common use of facilities has not been effected. The current state actually continues to stifle growth within the horticulture sector. And our recommendation as industry is that there is a need to work together with government on a private-public partnership to develop common use of facilities, especially for fumigation and for packaging, so that the growers and exporters are able to increase their volumes. The strategic objective number 5 is to strengthen trade facilitation of horticultural produce, which is the flowers, fruits, vegetables, herbs, and spices. And key among this is the preparation of a sanitary and phytosanitary food safety and quality handbook that provides information to the farmers on the various requirements from the market. We are happy to report that good progress has been made on this in terms of negotiations from our government, especially with the United States of America and China, on the trade protocols. But there is potential need for other markets, new markets like Russia, like Turkey, and others within the European Union. And our recommendation is that we want to encourage government to continue with the negotiations, especially on SPS protocols with the new and emerging markets. And finally, the strategic objective number 6 is to promote exports of horticultural products in the target destination markets. And key among that is 1, to undertake exhibitions and trade fairs in target destination markets on a cost recovery model with matching grants to exporters. And secondly, identification of destination marketing agencies for Kenyan horticultural produce and engaging them in order to drive Kenya's export market share, working closely with the private sector. Our assessment as industry is that this support from government on trade fairs has up to date been quite thin or small, and also the fact that the market intelligence and the linkage of Kenyan exporters to market private agencies in destination market has not happened.
Government to expedite the release of these funds, because we believe that working with us, we can find a quick solution in terms of looking at how the systems can support our export. I would also want to highlight something that came up after the finance bill. Our industry was lumped with a 16% VAT on all agrochemicals. And as you know, that the products we deal with, we can use other means to control pests, but it's not 100%. We still have to use chemicals to some extent. And therefore, when you have an increase from being zero rated to having 16% on pesticide products, this is a huge dent on our cost of production, and it makes us completely uncompetitive in the international market, because our produce, when we get to the international market, is more expensive than the same product from our competitors, even regionally. So this is something that we appeal to the government to reconsider, because we want to remain as competitive as possible in the international market, so that our produce can fetch the best prices and be able to compete favorably with our competitors. As you know, fresh produce from this country have to go through a test, what we call the phytosanitary test. This is always done by KEFIS through a system we call the ECS. The ECS has had a lot of challenges, breaking down so often, sometimes even on a weekly basis. And as you know, is that we cannot airlift our produce from this country without a declaration that it has passed the health and safety parameters. If it does, we do that, Then when it gets to our destination countries, it is held up. And you know this is fresh produce, so we are talking about highly perishable products. So if we have to wait for some time before the phytosanitary certificate reaches this destination, we lose the quality of our produce. We ask the government, working of course through KEFIS, to help revamp this system and make it more functional, so that at a time like this, when we are experiencing our high season, especially for flowers, the Valentine season is the highest for us, which we're experiencing now. Our produce will not be held up either at the airport in Nairobi or in our destination markets because it does not have the necessary documentation. All these challenges are compounding many others that we're experiencing as an industry, especially as we look at the issue of taxation and levies, both at the national level and at the county level. We look at the cost of energy is still very high. The restrictions on phytosanitary and other trade barriers in destination markets. And recently, we have also experienced an interesting scenario where the Kenya Airports Authority have decided that for some reason, even when we're in high season, they will close for some hours the runway during the night. And as you know that for us to airlift heavy cargo, most of it we do at night because of the pressure. And therefore, if we close the runway during the same period, we are not able to airlift this produce to the destination markets. We just wanted to highlight a few of these challenges that we experienced. But we know that the horticulture remains pivotal in boosting the growth of agriculture sector in this country. Currently, Kenya is ranked the largest supplier of cut flowers to the European Union with a market share of 40%. It is the second largest developing country exporter of flowers in the world after Colombia. It is the second largest horticulture sector exporter in sub-Saharan Africa after South Africa, and the second largest developing country supplier of vegetables to the European Union after Morocco. These are successes that we've had, but we believe that we can be able to achieve so much if the government comes in and works closely with that, facilitating our business. Then we can be able to make a lot of strides. We are looking at 2019, and we are very hopeful that we can be able to surmount or surpass we can surpass this achievement that we had in 2018 and surmount some of the challenges that we have highlighted here. Thank you.
Imports and exports, because at that time, just like even now, there's still a huge imbalance between imports and exports. If you look at 2017 figures, our imports were around 1.7 trillion shillings, and our exports were around 600 billion. So we said we need to do something about the exports. For imports, because we belong to the international community, we are subscribed to WTO rules and regulations. We will not want to harm the trade of imports coming to a country, as long as they're useful and there's demand. But we need to aggressively push the agenda of exports, because when we increase our exports, we increase jobs for our people, we increase the economy for our people. And especially now that the president has set up the Big Four agenda under manufacturing, which requires that we move the share of manufacturing as percent of GDP from the current level of around 9% to 15%. Clearly, it is important that as a nation, we aim at 7 billion consumers, not 45 million who are in Kenya, because those Kenyans cannot uptake 15% of manufactured goods of the GDP. We have to get out. That is why we came up with the National Export Strategy. And we were very ambitious in that export strategy. And it was a strategy that came after collaboration, working with the industry, and we agreed on all the things that you have had. In this document here, we agreed on 6 strategic objectives. And this is the horticulture export strategy. We have 24 of such in the integrated National Export Development and Promotion Strategy. The big document is around 600, but we have split it into 24 chapters. And in this chapter, we have the minister responsible for agriculture, Kiunjuri. Honorable Kiunjuri has already signed off his part, and you will be seeing, you will be giving you this report very soon. He has signed off, together with PS Boga, or PS Agriculture, together with my minister, Munya, and myself, at government level. And the private sector are the ones that are going to be working with us. And for the private sector, especially this horticulture sector, this is the team, together with KEPSA, that will be driving. We have agreed on a target of 25% per annum. And initially, when we set that target, people thought we were too ambitious. But clearly, the results you have seen today show that these are realistic, we can achieve. In fact, the results show that we had 153 billion worth of exports of horticulture in 2018. This is from the HCDA. The data I have from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics up to October last year shows that we in 10 months of last year we exported goods of 274,231 metric tons, which with a value of 128 billion. So, which is not far from the 153. So if you just look at the 2 months, these figures that they have are correct. And so this is a big jump, because to move from 117 to 153 billion, that is 33%. And for us, that is good, because we have surpassed the target that we have set. And if every sector was to work hard as this sector of horticulture, then you can imagine what that would mean for us. We are going to really see a huge increase in our exports. And you have had them. There are so many challenges. They have, even listening to them with those challenges, you wonder how they have made it. So it means if we were to address these challenges, and we are going to address as a government, I believe this sector will do very well. You may have seen this week, I think in the Business Daily, some of those who are there, I saw figures you quoted from Central Bank that shows that our current account deficit is now 4.9% of GDP. That is the lowest we have ever seen in the last 11 years. We've been having huge current account deficit. I remember when we were doing the national trade policy, we had around 8, almost 9%, almost double digit. And so it shows that we have worked hard, first around manufacturing to ensure that we produce the goods that Kenyans import, and at the same time we have also worked hard on the exports. And I saw also the Stanbic Bank, what you call the Purchasing Managers Index, PMI, that shows that in the last 4 months there's been a huge increase in orders. So you need to check. I haven't seen those figures myself, but export orders are rising. So it's a good story, and we just thought that it's good to tell Kenyans that something is happening.